So in the next slide, we're going to see a comparison of Prince Charles' invitation and then
Yes.
some of the former of the sovereigns that came before him. So
Yes.
you can see the difference. And
Yes.
the difference also is that he was able to have somebody make this invitation because of the modern technology. Of course, we can reproduce
Yes.
a beautiful one, whereas at the time it was limited, of course.
Yes.
So this
Yes.
is why one is a little more colorful than the other. And but the one that is colored is the one of the coronation invitation for George IV
The
in
fourth. Yeah.
1821, right? So and for that particular invitation, two sets of invitations were done. This one here, you see that all around it's got a bit of red and blue
Yes.
and
Blue.
black and white. And the other invitation for the people, so this is for the hall, right? But
Yeah.
then a special invitation has been delivered to people who were to attend in the abbey, and it's a blue one. So instead of the red, it's
Yes.
completely blue.
Oh, it's all blue.
Okay, so I haven't pulled it up there, but
That's
it's
okay.
easy to find too. So just to show that there had been two different invitation sent for this particular king.
Yeah.
The next one is Edward VII. Okay,
Yeah.
so his grandfather, great grandfather, I can't remember, whatever. Um, great grandfather. And then after
Mm.
that, we have George VI.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, his
Queen
mother,
Elizabeth. Yeah.
right, Queen Elizabeth. So
Mm.
all those invitations, apart from the coronation of George IV, which I'm going to discuss a little 2 minutes,
Mm.
all those bear all the insignia of the British monarchy, the regalia, and all the symbols of this monarchy, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have the coat of arms, you see the coat of arms of England, of Scotland, you see the symbol plants, and then the very regalia is over there. And for Queen Elizabeth, we can see that her regalia displays a little more than the one of George VI, for example, because she has incorporated in hers very cleverly in the foliage the scepter, you know,
Ah, yes. I can
on
see.
each side, and they act as
Yes.
balls onto which the flowers are just swirling. Okay,
Yes.
it's very
Yes.
cleverly done because it's a little less in your face, right?
Yes.
And it's a
Yes.
little more gracious, like a queen or a woman would suppose image
Yeah.
would be, right?
Yes.
And of course, at the bottom, what we see is the sword, the two swords, right?
Two
We see
swords.
the
Yep.
orb, you see the crossed
Yep.
orb on that, and then
Yep.
you see the crown of Edward the Confessor that we just discussed a little
Yes. Edward the
earlier.
Confessor. Yep.
Yeah, and then you see also the ampulla. You see the ampulla of this bird, which has a very long neck. Okay, you see that on the right,
Uh,
like the
oh,
spread wing,
yes. Yes,
right?
I do.
So
Yes.
this is the
Yes.
ampulla that is used for the anointing of the sovereign. Okay.
Yes.
Most people say this is a dove. I've never seen a dove like that with such
No,
a long
it's not.
neck, right? And a dove is not standing on its feet like that. This is typically the iconography of a phoenix rather than a dove.
The
Okay.
Phoenix. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's maybe they wanted, I don't know. And on top you see the coat of arms of the British monarchy, Dieu est
Yeah.
mon droit, coming from the Normans when William the Conqueror came in 1066. And of course, you have the crashing the lion on top with the crown on his head, and then you've got
Mm.
Edward the Confessor crown again, and then all the coat of arms coated with all the part of England, Ireland, and everything is there. So the full regalia is there
Oh.
for us to see, right?
Yeah. Can I
So and
just
you,
ask? Can I ask
yeah,
you a question?
yes,
So the coat of arms that we see on Queen Elizabeth's invitation there, because it's actually much more clearer, that coat of arms is not a personal coat of arms. That's actually the coat of arms of the monarchy,
yeah,
of the sovereign.
it's yeah, it's the coat of the sovereign,
Okay, excellent.
which is the monarch, but sometimes they have to tweak it a bit.
Yes,
But
yes.
it's the sitting reigning sovereign has this coat of arms. Okay,
Okay,
it has
excellent.
changed,
Yep.
of course, over time, but this is the one that I think they started to codify a little bit more with all the stuff. in the beginning of the 19th century, I think. But
Right,
it was, I
because
mean, the coat of arms is something that's quite ancient because it was
yes,
made um, specifically more, it was developed not just for nobility and aristocracy, because it was easy for them to be recognized on the battlefield,
yes, on the
right?
battlefield, yeah, yeah.
Because you would have that on the cloth that is on your horse. I don't know the name of this particular cloth.
Hmm.
But you won't go to battle with this type of clothing on your horse. It's just like for parading, right? But you
Parade,
would have
yes.
that on a flambeau, or how do you call that? On a flag. You would have
Yes,
that
on
on
the
the flag.
flag, yeah.
You would have that on
And
your
your
armor painted, or
yes.
sometimes something that your pages would carry that, the
Mm.
knights would carry that. So in the midst of the battle, you would be able to recognize people that are on your side.
Excellent. Yeah.
Okay.
No, because it often the thing that confused me in the invitation was the fact, I mean, I can see that that appears on Elizabeth's invitation, but I was wondering why there were two. But I obviously one is the coat of arms of the sovereign. The second one on the right is the coat of arms of Charles
Of
and Camilla.
of Camilla only.
Yes.
Charles in the middle.
Oh, yes.
And
Okay.
if you look closely, you will see that the half that it's called quartered. The half quarter on the left
Yes.
side is Charles, that has been,
Yes.
shrunk to fit in, and
Yes.
on the right side, it's the one of
Camilla.
Camilla, using the one of her father, Major Shand. Okay, because Major Shand's coat of arms featured the mullet or the star. It's the other name.
Ah, yes. Yes.
Heraldry has a specific code of names for the
Yes.
symbols that are put, or the colors. Red is not red; it's gueule in French.
Ah,
You see,
yeah.
and so forth.
Yeah.
Silver is not silver; it's sand. So, I think, sanded black. I can't remember, but whatever. You have a specific typology that is
Yes.
associated to the heraldry and how coat of arms are made. So you're right. On the invitation of Charles, we have the both coat of arms
Mm,
of his and hers.
yeah. And there's also, I suppose, a third coat of arms on that invitation at the
We
bottom.
could we're gonna have a look at
Yeah,
that, because
we'll talk
not
about that.
really a coat of arm, but something that's quite interesting.
Yes.
So I would like just to finish on this
Yeah,
slide,
yes. Yes,
see,
do.
with the
Yes.
slide of Coronation George the Fourth.
Mm.
I think he was, when you see his invitation, it's also a bit different than the one from King Edward the Eighth, the Seventh, and Queen Alexandra, or Queen
Yeah.
Elizabeth, or George the Sixth, because George the Fifth, so he's been regent for quite some time. His father was dying and ill and stuff, so he didn't get into being fully a monarch until he was 57. Okay.
Mm.
And he was quite at odds with his parents, especially his mother, because he was kind of living a very lavish style, and he was
Yes.
quite liberal with his money, and then he was very much in debt pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
But he was very much into arts, and he became not enamored, but he was a staunch supporter of the architect John Nash.
Hmm.
John Nash has been the one who's been giving the Greek revival, and then specifically the crescent in Bath, the
Yes.
crescent that we see in almost all movies or period about Jane Eyre and then stuff like that. It's the architect associated with it. So he
Yeah.
became a supporter of John Nash because he found a renewed interest in Greek art and stuff. So he was very much a supporter of arts, science. And this
Mm.
invitation shows that, because if we zoom in, we
Yes.
can see that in the center, the the people that are crowning him are the
Mm.
nine muse of
The
the,
muse.
yeah,
Yeah.
the nine, the muse of music,
Yes.
architecture,
Yes.
art and stuff, science. So
S-
this is a way to say to his parents, you know what? I'm going to do how I please. I'm going to part a bit from that because I'm going to show the world what my interests are. So he
mm.
was not much of a politician, if I'm correct. And he was very much at odds often with the parliament.
Yes.
And
And
he's the one we have to thank for the
mhm.
Brighton Pavilion because it was erected already in
Yeah.
let me see, when was it? 1778 or something like that. But
Yep.
he decided to give it the vibe of the Anglo-Indian, like that
Yes.
could be rival with the Taj Mahal. Okay, so
That's
this is
right.
the guy we
Yes.
have to thank for. And the
Okay.
Brighton Pavilion is absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic, phenomenal.
Can can I you've sparked my interest immediately when I saw this. Number one, when I first looked at it, it first gave me the vibe of, because of that fine art line work, it kind of looked like it kind of has the impression of money. But then when I looked at, as soon as I noticed the women in that logo, in that artwork, I immediately recognized them as the muse.
Yeah.
But then my mind, because I've done so many videos at the beginning talking about Apollo,
Mm-hmm.
Apollo was the god that was always represented with the muse, because
Yeah.
Apollo was the god of the arts. And so
Yeah.
the muse, and so what was George, what is the royal fan, or George the Fourth, what was his association with Apollo? Because he's actually, the way he's sitting there, I mean, he's being crowned by the muses, but it's
Yeah.
also, if you look at it from without focus, going into the detail, it actually looks like Apollo and the muses, the muse.
It can be seen like that. I think he very much well, I don't know many things about him. Probably
Oh,
historians can do better. But exactly, I think this is the vibe that we get. This is impression. You say we were talking about the impression, the first impression
yes,
it,
the impression, yes,
right? So it's very much
absolutely.
like so. And if you see that the wreath that is around this vignette could look like, and then at the bottom of it, it could look like the wreath of Apollo, the laurel wreath of Apollo
Yes,
that
of
is given
Apollo.
afterwards to people. And so when we say you're crowned with a wreath of Apollo, or you just you received a high distinction of some kind. Okay. So
Yes.
your analysis seemed to be fitting. Absolutely.
Well,
Yes.
the other thing that came into my mind, it looks like money. I can see the muse. I look at the wreath, because there's the
Yeah.
laurel underneath in the wreath. The wreath, the first thing, it's going to sound stupid, but the first thing that I thought of when I saw that wreath was Dionysus in the Olympic Games opening ceremony. He had a wreath around his head,
Mm-hmm.
and he was
Yeah.
and so it's kind of very interesting, because when we talk about the god Apollo, and like in previous videos where we've come along on the journey, that there's obviously some sort of significance of Diana, the hunt, the goddess of the hunt, and Apollo,
Mm-hmm.
the god of the hunt. I think in a very early video I said, it's obviously there's obviously an association with the horned gods, like, and there are many horned gods. So that's where I sort of went, I can't tell whether it's Apollo or whether it's a horned god. But Apollo and Diana were both stags. They're represented by stags, by horned
Yes,
beasts. So
yes. And
it's
she
very,
also has a crescent on her head too. She's got a
yes.
silver crescent
She
because
does.
she's the goddess of the moon too, of the women.
Yes, very interesting. No, that's really interesting, Florence. I hadn't thought. So George the Fourth, very interesting.
So yeah, so this invitation shows us that sometimes in the past, people who were about to be crowned decided to part a bit from protocol. So I suppose it depends also on the character of the sovereign to become or to be, right?
Mm.
So, and we can see that we know the father of Queen Elizabeth. He was a very rigorous and very much to the opposite of his brother who abdicated
Mm.
because
Mm.
of Wallis Simpson. Okay, so maybe we have here kind of a similar vibe to his ancestor. Like, I know what protocol dictates me to do.
Mm.
I'm going to put some elements that are on my own because
Yeah.
I'm the king now. I can do whatever I want. And so I'm going to also put my interest in that, just like my ancestor, George the Fourth, did with his own invitation.
Mm.
So now let's have a little look at the invitation per se of King Charles's coronation. So
Mm.
yes, we said that it's similar to an eliminated manuscript medieval arts and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So by the way, just to say that the first known manuscript of this kind dates from the 4th or 5th century, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Book of Kells is the 9th century, and then they became in decline in by the end or the middle of the 15th century because of the printing press. So it was
Yeah.
more easily it was easier to spread words or whatever. You didn't needn't have to have a monk copying that for you to
Yeah.
have it right. So that said, the second thing that jumps at us when we see this invitation is absolutely gorgeous, as we said,
Mm.
and it's this curious figure at the bottom of it of a green man,
Mm.
a
Yes.
figure in the foliage with a strange crown.
Yeah.
And it seems to be at odds with the stern rigor and protocol of the two coat of arms that are adorning each side
Yes.
up of the invitation.
Yep.
So, and I recall at the time saying that some articles in the British press said, "Oh, we have the Green Man that's been invited to the coronation," and people were just like singing it because it's so obvious. You can hide
Yes.
it. Okay, so we have a Green Man that is very much part of the folklore of England.
Yep.
Okay, and has been for a long time, and
For a long time.
through
Yep.
Europe. I mean, not just England, but Europe. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
I was recently in Europe, and then I saw one of these in France on the exterior pillar of a church, and it was carved in the stone. Okay, so many
Yes.
churches. I mean, all over England is peppered with churches that have carvings of men in foliage on their pillars throughout Europe. I mean, it's really
Yep.
easy to see, and it's not a secret, of course.
Yep.
So, and as we know, the first Christian, when they established themselves, what they did is that they kind of recycled, the temples that were there already. And most of the time, it was the temple of Apollo or Mithra that were used because, I mean, the building is there. People start to
Yes.
convert and become Christians. So why not use the buildings that have been there all the time? We're just going to tweak some things. We're going to keep some
Yes.
of them that are not at odds with the rules or the ideology, and
Yep.
then we're going to add some new elements that would say this is the new religion that we are establishing on that, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
it's not something that is to be
It's
afraid
yeah.
of or
It's happening it's
shocked
happening
by.
right now in we're seeing it happen right now because there's many unused churches throughout Europe, and particularly in the UK, that are now being converted into mosques because they're not used.
Yeah,
So it's exactly the same thing.
it's the same stuff.
Mm.
So the green man here does not have to shock us.
No.
It's a bit surprising to see it on invitation because I mean 2,000 people were there from all the crown heads of Europe and the people of politics country being the president or whatever. So it's kind of this invitation is it's playful, it's
Yes.
vibrant, it has a sense of. I mean, I would. That's my impression when I first saw it. It looks like an invitation for the royal garden party.
Yes, I
Okay,
agree.
it doesn't look like it's the coronation of the king. But
Mm.
that said, we all know that King Charles has been very much defender or an advocate for environment and the
Mm.
environment issues. And it's interesting to recall that he delivered his first speech about environmental issue when he was 21 in 1970. Okay,
Yeah.
so nature and green and stuff has been a long time with him, associated with
Yes.
him. Okay, for a
Yes.
long, long, long
Yes.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's dive it a little bit more into this invitation because so many things to see. So I think you
All
can
right.
pull up the invitation where it's just focused on the um,
Hi, Jamsters. Thank you so much for joining Florence and I for part 2. There is part 3 and 4 coming. Yes, I hope you're enjoying it as much as I enjoyed talking to Florence. Isn't she wonderful? All right, talk to you soon.